Hi, everybody. Welcome to your Breakup with Birth Control Masterclass. My name is Taylor, and today we're going to be talking about the 4 steps to break up with birth control with clear skin, zero mood swings, and pain-free monthly periods. So if you are new to me, welcome. If you are a returning client or even following me for a while, I'm so glad you're here. I am a registered dietitian and the founder of Nourished by Taylor. I help women break free from reliance on birth control to deeply heal their gut, skin, and hormones naturally. And I utilize functional testing to identify and treat deep imbalances within the body, oftentimes missed by conventional healthcare. I also have a background working with eating disorders. That's a part of my own personal story. And I very much practice from a non-diet, weight neutral, body positive approach. So really focusing on what foods can we add versus the diet culture mentality of good food, bad food, focusing just on weight loss. That is not my jam, not my style. So if that sounds like you, probably aren't the right fit. But if you are someone who is looking for a way to nourish your body, feel good in your own skin, and you don't want to fear food, then you are exactly in the right place. You're also in the right place if you want to stop birth control, but you are terrified of what might happen. So maybe you were put on birth control for acne, painful periods, missing periods. Maybe you've already tried coming off before and you had a really horrible time with it. Or maybe you've just heard horror stories from your girlfriends who have done it and you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrifying. I do not blame you. You also might be someone, maybe you're not sure if you want to break it off with birth control quite yet, or maybe you're just curious. You maybe have heard some rumblings about the effects of birth control on the body. Maybe you're just looking to learn some more. Then that is absolutely fine. I also want to preface this from the get-go and say I am not anti-birth control. I think it is a very personal decision, one that we are lucky to have as women. And what I am anti is non-informed consent. So we'll be talking a lot about how birth control does impact the body and myths and misconceptions about birth control that a lot of women are led to believe that simply aren't true or aren't based in fact. And so that's my whole goal, is to educate women so that you can make an informed decision on your health. And that's going to look different person to person. So I do work with women who they want to stay on birth control and just optimize their nutrition to support that. That is totally fine. Or maybe category 3, you broke it off with birth control already and it's not going so hot. So you might be experiencing acne. You might be struggling with a missing or irregular or really painful period, mood swings, anxiety, all of those horrible symptoms called post-birth control syndrome, which we'll talk more about. But this will also definitely apply to you. This is also near and dear to my heart because that's what happened to me. Is I quit both birth control cold turkey and I had to basically reverse engineer it to heal my body afterward, versus if I had this masterclass, if I had a support like myself, a resource like myself, I would have saved myself so much time, money, and energy. And that being said, I know a lot of women might be coming to this masterclass and you've already experienced a messy breakup with birth control. And so I can definitely help with that. I want to kick it off by talking about my own personal birth control story. This plays into why I'm so passionate about helping other women navigate this. And like I mentioned, be the guide and support for other women that I did not have. So I was put on birth control at 18 years old when I lost my period. No digging was done, no questions were asked. I was simply told you can just stay on this. It doesn't have any negative consequences. My doctor, and you're going to college anyway, so might as well. And you can stay on it till you want to get pregnant, which there's a lot wrong with that, in my opinion. Um, Nobody knew that something much deeper was going on. I was meticulously counting calories. I was stressing over everything that went into my mouth. I was exercising for hours a day and obsessed with being the thinnest and the quote unquote healthiest I could be. I was actually battling an undiagnosed eating disorder for that period of time. Thankfully, I was able to heal my relationship with food, exercise, and my body. I do not recommend, I did not get formalized treatment for an eating disorder. I now work after working in the field of eating disorders for almost a decade. I know I did have an eating disorder. And like a lot of eating disorders, it went undiagnosed and unnoticed. unfortunately, through no fault of my family or anything like that. I was seen as being healthy or being like a little too obsessed with food. Um, that being said, I say all of that because I do not recommend DIYing recovery. If you are struggling with an eating disorder, definitely reach out for support from a treatment team. It would have helped me recover much faster than if I were to have been doing it on my own. All that being said, though, thankfully I was able to heal my relationship with food through my education as a dietitian. I was going to school at the time, studying dietetics, and I realized what I thought was really healthy actually wasn't. So I basically put myself on a meal plan, backed down my exercise, worked on all of that stuff, and was able to come out on the other side. And that's what brought me into the eating disorder space to begin with. So I was on birth control that whole time, thinking that I was getting a period and that it didn't have any negative side effects, which I later learned was not true. So fast forward 10 years, I was randomly listening to a podcast by Alyssa Vitti, who is a women's health expert. She's written tons of great books, my favorite being In the Flow. That was the first book that I read about this topic, and it just basically like uh, opened my eyes rather to all of the misinformation I'd been led to believe and had believed up until that point. So I learned that I was actually getting a period on the birth control pill, which we'll talk about why that is here in a second. And I learned that it actually was doing my body more harm than it was good. And at that point, I thought I was in a good place with food and my body and thought I was at my healthy weight, but I wanted to go off birth control to really make for sure that was the case and to make for sure I was in a place that was right for me. So I made the personal decision to quit birth control cold turkey. I didn't know that you shouldn't do that. I went to my doctor and told her I was thinking about quitting birth control, and she basically said, "Okay, just stop and see what happens." So I stopped, and for the next 4 years, I struggled with embarrassing and painful acne, as you can see from the pictures here, irregular periods, and really bad anxiety. It was the worst it had ever been. And I received zero support from healthcare providers. So doctors basically just told me that's normal. It'll go away in a couple months. If it doesn't, come back and see us. Or just simply offered me to the solution of going back on the pill, which at that point I knew that was an option. I knew the behind the scenes of what it was doing to me and that it wasn't actually going to be a long lasting solution. It was just going to be a band-aid. So I was very frustrated, very stuck, and very sick and tired of being sick, but no one could help me. So that's when I decided to take matters into my own hands, did more research combined with my knowledge as a dietitian, and I discovered the world of functional nutrition, which is really getting to the root cause of symptoms. So instead of just taking birth control for my acne, like looking at, okay, well, what's causing the acne to begin with? And for me, once I did functional testing, I was like, oh, it's like 10 of these things that no one identified or no one told me about or I had no clue about. So all that being said, I discovered the keys to root cause healing to healing healing my symptoms without relying on birth control. So one is that functional testing to pinpoint exactly where imbalances were in my body. Two was that root cause healing. So getting targeted nutrition and lifestyle and supplement interventions to correct imbalances at the source versus covering them up. Let's take a step back before we go any further and talk about how hormonal birth control works. And when I say hormonal birth control, I'm just going to be referring to birth control by those two words moving forward, but really hormonal birth control is what we're talking about here because that is what is having all these impacts because of its function on hormones in the rest of the body. So this includes the pill as well as hormonal IUDs. So really the only IUD that wouldn't fall into this would be the copper or Paragard IUD. They're the same thing. Birth control works by shutting down your body's natural ability to make its own hormones, and it floods your body full of artificial hormones. Because of this, it prevents ovulation. And this means your body isn't producing the necessary hormones to conceive a baby. This is why you're not having a real period. You're having a fake bleed, but you're not actually ovulating. So you're not having a true period. So A huge pet peeve of mine is when doctors ask women, how is your birth control? Are you still on birth control? And they're like, yes, I'm still on it. And then they proceed to ask next, how are your periods? And it just makes me so angry because it just perpetuates that misinformation that you're having a period on birth control when really you're not having a period. It's a fake bleed. Fun fact, pill manufacturers, I'm not sure about IUD, but I know for a fact, birth control pill manufacturers created those iron pills and the artificial bleed because women were so freaked out when birth control came out about not having a period every month that they weren't taking it. And so manufacturers wanted, they wanted those investments and the money. So they created those iron pills so women would have that artificial bleed. So it would make them feel like they're having a period. But I want to emphasize that you are not having a true period on birth control. So while it's effective at preventing pregnancy, these mechanisms do negatively impact the rest of the body, which we'll talk about next. So here is the far-reaching effects of birth control. So when doctors say, it doesn't have any negative side effects, this is where I come back and I say, okay, look at the research, it does. And this is not to scare you, this is to inform you, and this is to help you be proactive with your health. So like I said, whether you want to come off birth control, whether you want to stay on it, there are things that you can do to reverse the negative impacts. You just have to know exactly what's going on in your body, which is where I really value those functional lab tests, because we can guess all we want with like, okay, maybe you're depleted in minerals, maybe your beneficial gut flora is lower, maybe your liver is needing some additional support. But unless we get that data, we're kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So that's why I like to incorporate those functional labs, in addition to looking at the symptoms, the deep dive assessment, the whole picture. So vitamins and minerals, birth control depletes lots of vitamins and minerals, and those are really essential for our overall health. So specifically vitamins A, B, C, and E, and minerals, magnesium, selenium, and zinc. And this isn't as simple as just taking a multivitamin. It's much more complicated than that. In terms of gut health, it depletes key minerals, like I said, and minerals are really important for the health of all of our cells, including the health of our gut. It also kills beneficial bacteria, so the good bacteria in our gut. It encourages the growth of bad bacteria. It can cause inflammation and leaky gut. Leaky gut is where food particles get through the intestinal lining and into the bloodstream, and that causes inflammation. And then it also impairs detox of estrogen. So the gut is one of the main detoxifiers of estrogen or recycling of estrogen. So if there are issues with that, then we tend to have a buildup of estrogen and some more estrogen dominant symptoms, which could be like heavy painful periods, breast tenderness, PMS. The list could go on and on. And then the liver. So birth control puts a lot of stress on the liver. It can elevate liver enzymes, increases risk for liver disease. It's a burden on liver's detoxification pathways, and it decreases the metabolism of nutrients and waste. And probably most obviously, it does impact your hormones. We touched on this already. It suppresses your natural hormone production, flatlines hormone cycles, alters hormone metabolism, suppresses thyroid function, and alters stress hormone. So AKA that's cortisol. So the reason we want to PrEP is because we want to repair imbalances or deficiencies that birth control contributed to or caused. If we don't, then you're at risk of developing what's called post-birth control syndrome. This is all of these nasty symptoms or side effects of quitting birth control cold turkey when there are imbalances. So this is something, because of birth control's far-reaching effects, it makes it more likely if you struggled with, let's say, painful periods or acne before stopping birth control, and you were put on birth control to quote unquote help with those, it's very likely that they're going to come back when you stop birth control if you don't address the true imbalances that were causing those things to begin with. And they're probably going to come back worse if you don't address them because of birth control's impact. So it's kind of like you already had an imbalance that was causing that. Birth control makes that worse through all the various mechanisms we just went through. So when you stop, if you don't properly prepare and rebalance, you're at risk of struggling with that even more. Okay, let's dive into why you're here. 4 steps to stopping birth control. So we're going to break this down month to month so you have a clear timeline and then put it all together at the end. Months 1 through 4, you're going to figure out when your timeline is. What's the end destination? Where are we headed? I would recommend stopping, if possible, during a time that's not super stressful. I know as I say that out loud, that sounds unrealistic because so many of us are just always stressed. We're always busy. We're always doing something. But if possible, just kind of take a bird's eye view of your schedule, look at the rest of the year. And do you have any like big life changes coming up? Are you changing jobs? Are you moving? As much as you can, think about, is there an ideal time to stop? And I recommend prepping for 3 to 4 months prior to stopping. So if you're like, okay, right now as I'm recording it, this is November, and let's say I want to stop in February because all the holidays are done, the New Year's over, my birthday's in December, we're going on vacation. So I want to stop in February when things are winding down. I want to start prepping right now because that gives me at least 3 months to prep so then I can smoothly transition off in February. So look at your calendar, choose a time, and look at the timeline. And then the reason we're doing this is because stopping birth control is a big change for your body. So the body has to relearn how to make its own hormones, how to regulate its own hormones. And birth control does put a lot of stress on different body systems. So it also depletes key nutrients, and nutrients are really important for building stress resiliency, as we'll see a little bit later. So choose a time, and then we'll focus on stress management, which really looks like, first and foremost, intentional nourishment. So making sure that you are eating enough. I see so many women are under nourishing their bodies, under fueling themselves because there is so much stress to look a certain way, there's so much diet culture language out there. Eat this, don't eat this is good, this is bad. There's so many mixed messages out there. I know first and foremost as a dietitian how much there is. And that's a huge part of my role in helping my clients navigate that because I give them a customized plan with individualized support for foods, how much to eat, timing, all of that kind of stuff that they struggle with and they're just shooting in the dark. I take that stress away and I give them a plan. So that's where, if you are unsure, this is where working one-on-one with a dietitian like myself could be really, really helpful, and one that's knowledgeable in birth control and hormones. But under eating is a form of stress on your body. Erratic eating is a stress form on your body. The next one is mindful movement. So all of these you'll see as we continue on, they feed into each other. It's like a cycle. They just all link together beautifully. But mindful movement, listening to your body, you might want to decrease some intense workouts a couple weeks or months before or right after transitioning off birth control because it is a stressful time for your body. And so just giving yourself that intentional rest could be really helpful. And then that being said, leaning into rest, focusing on sleep, ideally getting 8+ hours of sleep per night. There's lots of research out showing that women need more sleep than men, which I think is interesting. And this goes back to a lot of research we have on men, or a lot of research we have on health is based off of male test subjects. So because women were included in clinical research trials until the 1990s, because we're quote unquote too complicated because of our fluctuating hormone levels, more research needs to be done. But there was a new research study that came out that talked about specifically sleep and females. I'm like, that makes so much sense. Always feel like I need more sleep than my boyfriend. Anyways, I digress. Take time for self-care and enjoyable activities, doing things that you genuinely enjoy. And these don't need to be extravagant. Doesn't mean you need to go on a week-long vacation or get massages every other week. It could just be choosing things like going out for a happy hour with a friend, or committing to getting a massage every couple of weeks, or getting your nails done. Anything that you feel like is fun, that makes you feel energized, that fills your cup. Setting boundaries, practicing saying no, delegating tasks you don't need to do, whether that's in your personal life, in your work life, that is, I know, very, very hard. And these are all, they all add up. All of these things add up. So a lot of times when I'm talking to women about stress, they're like, oh, well, I'm not stressed. And then we go through their day and I'm like, you definitely are stressed. And I know as someone who is type A and a high achiever, perfectionistic, those are the clients that I tend to work with as well. And so I know just from my own journey that we tend to be the ones who are like, well, I'm not stressed. And then all of a sudden we're like crying or we can't sleep or it's just very obvious because we're burning the candle on both ends. And then finally we had nothing left. So the next step or phase is replenishing minerals. So this will also be month 1 through 4. So you're going to be doing stress management. You're going to figure out your timeline and you're going to be replenishing minerals all months 1 through 4. That's because minerals are spark plugs to all of our cells. So they're foundation to our overall health, our brain, our thyroid, our gut, our hormones, quite literally every single system and cell in the body needs minerals. And birth control, as we mentioned, depletes a lot of vitamins and minerals. Other things that deplete minerals are stress, which is why stress is step number 1. Because if you're constantly stressed, but you're like refueling on minerals, it's just you're gonna plateau. Other medications, we talked about birth control, but there are lots of medications deplete minerals, not eating enough, or diet, or lifestyle foundations. Our food system is just naturally lower in minerals because we're producing more food. Our soil is just less nutrient rich. And most of us drink filtered water. So that gets rid of the bad stuff, but it also strips the water of the good minerals that are naturally occurring in there. And then another note, we will dive into this here more, but birth control not only depletes minerals, because of its impact on the gut, mineral absorption is also impaired as well. So it's kind of like a double whammy for the minerals in the cells, or minerals in birth control. Okay. So here is a mineral test. So I do this on every single client that I have one-on-one. And then I also, because I found it so valuable, I created a mineral testing bundle where if clients were in a place or didn't want the high touch support of one-on-one coaching, they could just do the mineral testing and get a like customized protocol with their results and what to do about it. So the mineral test, this is a small snippet I'm going to show as I do these case studies and as I do these results. There are pages upon pages of these labs that I'm reviewing through and sifting through. I'm just giving you small snippets to highlight what this would look like. So this is the hair tissue mineral analysis of my client O, and she was on birth control. Let me move this. I don't know if you can see it. She was on birth control for over 10 years. So she came to me wanting to come off birth control. She felt inflamed, just didn't feel like herself, definitely felt like it was impacting her mood. And she also had some chronic gut stuff that she had worked with other providers in the past. It was a little bit better, but there was definitely some stuff going on. So those were her goals, but the main one was transitioning off birth control, symptom-free. So you want to be within this white space. This is optimal. So as you can see, O is like really low in minerals across the board. And specifically her 4 macro minerals, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. Potassium's technically within normal range, but I saw later down in some other results from her minerals that she still needed to bump up potassium, but she was low in all 3 of these macro minerals, so the minerals you need the most. She also had some indicators of poor stomach acid. So the cool thing about the mineral test is it doesn't just show your mineral results, but it gives you key insight into different body systems. So specifically for her, gut health. So her low cobalt and low sodium showed me, and this is validated by her stool test that we did, that she had low stomach acid, poor digestion, absorption of her food. So she wasn't absorbing the minerals from the food that she was intaking. And she was a very healthy eater, but she actually wasn't eating enough and she wasn't absorbing the minerals well. So I created a custom plan for her to increase her nutrients and her caloric intake, as well as targeted supplements, mineral mocktails daily, and stomach acid support. Because like I said, she was one who was generally pretty healthy, but she definitely wasn't eating enough for her active lifestyle, and that was playing into some of her symptoms. I took this little blurb that she chat messaged me one day. And this chat message was before we got her mineral results back. Or I'm sorry, it was before I reviewed them with her. I looked at them, but we hadn't had our lab review yet. So I knew she was really depleted in minerals. She didn't know that yet. But right away from the get-go after our assessment, before we even got labs back, I was like, girlfriend, you're probably really low in minerals. I can know some things off the bat without the lab results at this point. So I had her start mineral mocktails to intentionally start adding those minerals back in. And she said, I've been implementing the minerals every day and I actually feel a difference. I think it's helping. And I was like, yes, that makes a lot of sense given your values. So what do we do about it? First and foremost, I always recommend test, don't guess. So testing your minerals would be the number one thing to do if you're planning on coming off birth control, or if you want to stay on birth control and you want to optimize your nutrition, your health on birth control, because it shows you what you're deficient in and it gives you key insight into your stress, your gut, your thyroid, adrenal health, and more. Mineral mocktails. So this is a combination of vitamin C, potassium, sodium, and magnesium. And I always tailor my mineral mocktail recipes to my clients based on their mineral test results as well. So for instance, I was really low in potassium when I did my mineral test. And so I really focus on bumping up potassium rich foods. So like bananas, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and coconut water, for example. Incorporating nutrient rich foods. Speaking of that, so again, coming from the mentality of what can we add versus what do we take away? All food provides nutritional value. Cake provides nutritional value. Apples provide nutritional value. Everything in moderation. So thinking through, a lot of people are like, oh, more fruits and vegetables and whole grains, but this is also quality fats like grass-fed butter, whole milk, rich protein sources from ideally local or organic meat. Those are also really, really important in addition to the colorful fruits, veggies, whole grains. And fun foods. I think it's really important. If you like ice cream, incorporate ice cream. That's okay. And then targeted supplements. So this helps speed healing and helps my clients see results quicker. I am very much a food first approach, but I oftentimes will incorporate some targeted supplements based on test results to help clients feel better faster. And a lot of women who I'm seeing are very deficient. And so I want them to see results and to feel better as quickly as possible. So we do incorporate some targeted supplements in there as well. So third on the list is gut rehab. So this will be months 2 through 4. So we've been mastering our minerals, we've been mastering our stress. So now month 2, we're going to be adding in gut support. The gut needs to be in tip-top shape for healthy hormones. It metabolizes and recycles estrogen. It regulates hormones like insulin, cortisol, and ghrelin. And dysbiosis in the gut can lead to hormone imbalances, specifically insulin resistance, thyroid disorder, PMS, PMDD, and much more. As an overview again, or as a reminder, birth control can kill beneficial bacteria, encourages the growth of harmful negative bacteria, can cause inflammation, and promote leaky gut. So you really want to make sure that we're supporting the gut. Here is a GI map. This is a stool test. I do this with probably like 75% of my clients, 75 to 85 or 75 to 80% of my clients, because I do see a lot of women who are struggling with digestive concerns. So the minerals I always do, GI map is probably the second test that I run the most in addition to blood labs. So again, this is a small snippet of the whole GI map panel. But this is client L, and she was on birth control for 15 years, and she actually wanted to stay on birth control. So she is one where we talked about, I just gave her information about how birth control could be playing into her symptoms and, let her make that informed decision for herself. She decided she wanted to stay on, but she wanted to work with me to optimize her gut, her minerals, her overall health to feel better. So she was really struggling with lots of bloat, nausea, constipation. She was only going to the bathroom maybe 1 to 2 times a week if it was a good week. And what she found was this page specifies commensal or good bacteria. So she was pretty low in a lot of bacterias. And 2 of them, this one that I can't pronounce very well, and this one, she was less than detectable limits. So that makes a lot of sense because she had been on elimination diets, which when you're restricting a lot of foods, that can decrease your gut flora, your beneficial flora. Had gone through lots of antibiotics that doctors gave her to try and like fix the problem. It actually made things worse. So I really worked with her to build up her gut microbiome. She was also low in minerals, and so we worked on remineralization. And then now we're working to incorporate foods that she previously deemed off limits. So she was on like low FODMAP, gluten-free, dairy-free, just pretty much anything you could imagine, and they weren't working. So this is very common. More often than not, it's not the food that's the problem. It is your microbiome as a whole. And I didn't put a blurb from her because this was something she verbally told me in session, but she told me after she'd been working on this stuff for a couple months, she was like, I am having 10 times more regular poops and I have so much more energy and I'm exercising and I have energy to do that. So I just thought that was funny. I'll never forget that. 10 times more regular poops. Gut solutions, stool testing. This is where you can look at the levels of good and bad bacteria, inflammation markers, infections, and overgrowth can be really helpful for, obviously gut symptoms, bloating, constipation, gas, diarrhea, but also acne. This is a big one for acne clients as well. Resistant starch, probiotics, prebiotics, and supporting stomach acid. So really food first here in general. The resistant starch, this plus the prebiotics and probiotics really build up that gut microbiome and that good bacteria, the beneficial bacteria. So resistant starch, this is things like incorporating potato starch. This is a good one. I did this when I was rebuilding my gut after stopping birth control. I would just add a spoonful of potato starch to like smoothies or yogurt or oatmeal. Really easy add in. Cooked and cooled. They have to be cooled. Potatoes and grains. Beans and lentils, green bananas or plantains. Those are all really great forms of resistant starch. Probiotics and prebiotics. So probiotics are those fermented foods. So think yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. Prebiotics, there's lots of these. You can Google more, but garlic, oats, ground flax seeds, onion, honey, and berries are some good sources of probiotic or prebiotics. And then supporting stomach acid. This is another thing I see quite regularly is women and men who have been told they have high stomach acid. They're put on acid blockers, PPIs, but that they actually have low stomach acid and those things are making it worse. So that's why if you have that experience of being told you have stomach acid problems or high stomach acid rather, and you're put on medication to lower that and it's not getting better, you probably have low stomach acid. And if you don't have enough stomach acid, you're not absorbing a lot of the minerals and vitamins from the food that you're consuming, which can lead to a whole host of problems. So incorporating bitter foods like arugula, cranberries, radicchio, vinegar, bonus points if you can eat those foods, like a few bites of those before the rest of your meal, just because that stimulates the salivary glands, which in turn stimulates the stomach to start producing stomach acid, which over time teaches your body to produce an adequate amount of stomach acid. And then if someone has really low stomach acid or they don't like those bitter foods, they're having issues with that, digestive bitters are something that I lean into. There's a couple different brands that I really like, but those can be a really good supplement version for bitters. And last but not least, step number 4. So this will be months 3 through 4. So kind of your last step before you're ready to make the leap and break up with birth control. This is targeted liver support. Birth control puts a lot of stress on the liver. And the liver has over 500 functions and it needs a lot of energy. So it processes and removes toxins, waste products, drugs, and alcohol from the blood. It produces bile, which is essential for breaking down fats and helps us absorb those fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. It stores essential nutrients, metabolizes and clears hormones. It metabolizes carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So liver is really crucial and foundational to our overall health. You can't live without the liver. So I check the health of liver with all of my birth control clients via functional blood work. And I want to preface by saying when I'm looking at blood work, I'm looking at what's optimal for women's health, not what's quote unquote normal. So oftentimes I'll flag a lot of things that I view as low or high that conventional medicine is saying is within normal limits. So I have a lot of women who come to me and they're like, well, all my lab work is coming back normal, but I feel like shit. And I'm like, well, they're either not running the right tests or they're not looking at what's optimal for men's health. So I'm looking deeper into those things. So this is my liver levels. This is my liver levels. So these are the three that I test, your AST, ALT, ALK-Phos. And as a reminder, I was on birth control for over 10 years. I had a very healthy lifestyle once I recovered from my eating disorder, didn't have a high alcohol intake, but I was really struggling with acne. So I was like, I'm doing all the things. Like, what the heck? Why am I not, why is my acne continuing? It was a lot of things, but elevated liver enzymes were one big one. So as you can see, I flagged this as really high. Conventional medicine said these were normal. So I want to point that out. They said this was normal. I consider this normal. So these were almost triple what I like to see. This one was slightly high, but I do see this quite a bit with elevated liver enzymes with my birth control clients because of that impact birth control has. For fun, I also put my retest. So after this, after I discovered these levels, I put myself on my own protocol to help naturally support and detox my liver. This isn't juice cleanses. This isn't any like fast or anything like that. That is not what we're doing because your liver needs a lot of energy. And you all know my opinion about fad diets and restricting yourself at this point, hopefully. But this was incorporating some of the things that we're going to talk about in the next slide. So through that, months later, I retested and all of my liver enzymes were in normal. They dramatically decreased, which is good. And my acne cleared. And that was a piece of it. There was definitely some more stuff with my acne, but that was a huge part of it. So how do we naturally support the liver? Here are some solutions. First and foremost, reducing your toxin exposure. So before I entered the world of functional nutrition, I was like, oh, you have a liver, like you have enough to detoxify. That's not true. Back in the day, but now we're exposed to so many chemicals, we're exposed to so many products. This isn't something you need to get obsessive about or freaked out about. That's the other thing I want to say. But this could be just like checking your beauty products, checking your cleaning products, and just starting to like swap them out. If it's really high, EWG, the Environmental Working Group, is a really great resource to check products. And they also have really good alternatives on there. So I would recommend just as you run out of something, just check it on EWG. If it's something that you absolutely love, like it's all about moderation. So getting rid of what you can, don't worrying about what you can't or you don't want to. So for example, like I switched out all my beauty products, face wash, hand soap, dish soap, detergent. But the one thing that I do not do non-tox is toilet bowl cleaner. I tried a couple and I just did not find one that I loved. If you have one that you love, please send it my way. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. But I could not find one. So we use Lysol. And I'm like, it's fine. It's all about reducing where you can, not freaking yourself out and not stressing yourself out about it, because that's worse for your health than just having some of that product. Purchasing organic when you can, ideally local when you can, washing produce, especially if it's more conventional. I will also be, upfront that I do not buy all organic. I focus on the dirty dozen when I can. I don't worry about it when I go out to eat. For me, it's more important to have like ethical meat than it is organic, but I do think that's important. So really here, it's whatever your budget allows, whatever ethically you would like to do, and what makes the most sense. But don't stress about this. Just do what you can. Targeted supplements. So I really love Amino Detox by Designs for Health. That's something that I personally use, and I use with some of my clients when their liver enzymes are elevated. B vitamins and minerals are really important for liver health. And then castor oil packs. These aren't like an oral supplement, but I consider them a supplement. So castor oil, if you've not heard of this, is a really, really amazing oil. It has lots of anti-inflammatory properties. You can look this up and read tons more about it. It's pretty fascinating. But a castor oil pack is where you put the oil on a flannel with or without a heating pad and you put it over your liver. And that helps naturally stimulate your liver detox pathways, lymphatic drainage. It's just really, really supportive. And it's a really like easy, non-invasive thing that you can do. Like I put my castor oil pack on at night when I watch Real Housewives, and it's keep it on for an hour or two. And some people sleep in it. I don't, because I don't want the oil to get on my sheets. Tried it once and that didn't work. But it's a very passive way of supporting your liver. Other natural detox activities include sweating regularly. So this could be through sauna. Infrared sauna is amazing. Exercise, massages, dry brushing, just to get that like lymph flowing, which helps the liver, and even just like deep breathing. So taking a couple deep breaths, everyone could benefit from doing some more deep breathing. And your foundations, eating enough, getting enough sleep, managing your stress, minerals, all really important to go back to the basics for supporting your liver. So you don't need a juice cleanse. You don't need tons of fancy supplements. You don't need the raw carrot salads every single day for every single meal to support your liver. All of these things work amazingly. Okay, so that's everything. So taking a step back, looking at this all together, month one, we want to plan the timeline. Start focusing on stress reduction and getting minerals in. Maybe this is where you test and start balancing your minerals. Month two, keep managing stress, keep working on minerals, incorporate some gut rehab stuff. Month three, same thing. So mastering those three things during month three. And then month four, that's where we add on that targeted liver support in addition to the other three things. In conclusion, to wrap up, breaking up with birth control doesn't have to be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be scary. Do not, I repeat, do not quit birth control cold turkey, because that is what will make it scary. We want to avoid that. Proactively prep your body using the information you used in this masterclass for 3 to 4 months for an optimal smooth transition off, and work with a birth control expert for functional testing and a custom plan to help you have an easy, breezy, beautiful transition off birth control with minimal to zero symptoms. So everything contained in this masterclass is a great start. So this might be all you need. If you're interested in diving deeper, I have 2 next steps for you, or 2 other options for next steps. The first one is applying for one-on-one coaching with myself. This is the highest level of support if you're really looking for individualized protocols, supports, all the lab testing. You're a go-getter. You're like, I want help. I want to do the things. I'm ready. And I want a birth control expert holding my hand throughout the entire process. Then my 4-month coaching package is exactly for you. It includes all the labs that we talked about today, plus additional ones, ongoing check-ins, one-on-one with me throughout the program, chat access. You'll get a really deep level of understanding of what's going on in your body and what you need to do to fix it for a smooth transition off birth control. So you can scan the QR code here to fill out an application and schedule a free discovery call where we make sure it's a mutual good fit, answer any questions you have. And if you're ready to move forward, then we'll get you set up. If you're not quite ready for 4 months of one-on-one coaching, or maybe you're like, oh, I just want like some lab testing, I just want like an initial plan, something to get me going, but I don't want to do this alone, then the mineral testing bundle is a great option for you. So this is, as I've mentioned, step number 1 for stopping birth control, the number 1 lab test I'd recommend for prepping your body to come off, to identify those imbalances and treat those imbalances with targeted supplements and foods and lifestyle protocols. So you get the test mailed to your door. It is a hair sample, so it's like a tablespoon of your hair. And you send that in, I get the results back and send you a customized video review explaining your results and an individualized protocol to get you started based on your specific imbalances, deficiencies, and goals. So you can scan the QR code to get access to that. And I would love to see you and would love to connect with you on social media. So I'm just talking to a screen right now, but I would love to meet some of you in person, whether it's working with you one-on-one or through the mineral bundle or just connecting on social media. So I'm most active on Instagram at Nourished by Tay, but I am also on TikTok and on Pinterest as well. So I would love to chat with you all there, or if you're not sure what the right next steps are for you, I'm happy to talk more about that based on your individual needs. So Again, thank you so much for taking the time to invest in yourself, to watch the masterclass. I know that we covered a lot of ground today. So you have this recording, go back to it, re-listen to it, send it to a friend who needs it, a family member. I hope it was helpful for you. And I'm wishing you all the best with a smooth, easy breezy, beautiful transition off birth control with clear skin, zero mood swings, and pain-free monthly periods. Enjoy.